Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SDV Law and Life podcast. Today we have Jacqueline Wagner, who is an experienced employment and human resource attorney for more than 26 years of experience. Hi, Jacqueline.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me, Mason.
I'm good. Thank you for being a guest on our podcast. So, can you please tell us who you are and what you do and how you got into this business?
Yeah, I'm the president of Wagner HR, and we handle three hats. We handle advice and counsel for employers on the employer side. We handle employee training and workplace investigations. So I got into this line of work. I was a young lawyer doing trademarks and copyrights for a large defense organization in San Diego 26 years ago, 27 years ago. And I really didn't like it. And those are all the classes I took in law school, but I just wasn't enjoying myself. It really lacked that human touch. And the employment law attorney who was in-house at the time tapped me to help her with some employment law matters. And I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. But I come from a long line of union folk, and I was very nervous of how my family would react if they found out that I was practicing law on the employer side. So I went to my dad and I asked him, hey, what do you think? Would you be mad if I did this work? I like it. They tell me I have an aptitude for it. What do you think? And he told me that he had been working his whole life so that I could have the career of my dreams. He did work he didn't want to do, and it didn't make any sense to him at all why I would have to do work I didn't want to do, since that was the whole point of him working. So he kind of gave me a pass, and I've been working at it ever since, and I love it.
Now, did you work for LAUSD? Am I correct?
I did work for LAUSD. I
How long?
recently left LAUSD to go out on my own. I was there for 14 years, and a great group of people. And I went out on my own, and now I've hung my own shingle.
Okay. As far as the employers that you help, do you have a sweet spot as far as the size goes, or the size is, tell us about what size employers do you help?
So for our advice and counsel in employee training and workplace investigations, well, really any of the three can be a large employer all the way down to a small mom and pop. We're happy to take the work of whomever will have us.
Is there one mistake that you see employers tend to make that they may not be aware of when it comes
Yes.
to, yeah, what would that
Yes.
be?
With discrimination claims, employers seem to be unaware that they can't retaliate against somebody who's made a claim of discrimination, harassment, or retaliation. And as difficult as that employee may be in the bonnet, they have to be really careful about taking employment action against that employee. And folks tend to think, well, this is a really problematic employee. They're not being a team player. They're not being a good worker. And so we want to cut ties with them altogether. Well, you have to be really careful about taking employment action against somebody who has complained.
And tell me about the investigation part of it. What does that usually entail?
So in California, when an employee has made a claim of discrimination, harassment, or retaliation, that triggers a affirmative duty for the employer to launch an investigation into the matter. And in addition to that, the employer is able to use the investigation itself and any corrective action it took as a result of the investigation as an affirmative defense in a discrimination, harassment, or retaliation claim if a lawsuit is brought. Now, who the employer chooses to bring in as the investigator of the discrimination, harassment, or retaliation claims is really the first decision the employer needs to make about once that trigger is triggered. That's really the first decision they need to make. The most important thing about a sound investigation to make sure that it stands the test of making sure that it's a sound investigation that will stand the test of that affirmative defense is that it's an impartial investigation and that it is done with an experienced investigator. And that can be really somewhere that an employer will stub its toe. So just 2 months ago in December, the Society for Human Resources Management, which holds itself out as the gold standard for all things employment law and human resources, it got struck in a Colorado federal court with a $11.5 million verdict, $1.5 million being compensatory damages and $10 million being punitive damages. And the crux of why they got hit with that amount of a verdict, this was a discrimination claim, a race discrimination claim. When the plaintiff had complained about race discrimination, holding itself out as the gold standard, it just assigned somebody in-house in HR to handle the investigation. Well, the jury did not like that investigator testified that they were totally inexperienced in conducting investigations. In fact, they testified that they had only ever conducted that the race discrimination claim that they investigated on behalf of the plaintiff was the only race discrimination claim they'd ever had investigated. They also testified, the investigator, that the only training they had received was one class, and they testified that they couldn't remember any of the details of that class. So the jury came down really hard on them for not being an experienced investigator and did not afford SHRM the ability to use that affirmative defense. It also found that the jury found that the investigation was not impartial. It really needs to be an impartial investigation to stand that test for the affirmative defense. It wasn't impartial because the investigator testified that he had ghostwritten some of the performance emails that had been issued to the plaintiff before the investigation had taken place. He also testified that he had been heavily involved in the decision to terminate. So he could not demonstrate impartiality. So although it could be it seems like it's more cost effective to just handle an investigation internally, it really can result in an exorbitant damaging verdict should it go to trial. And this was in a Colorado federal court. Imagine what an LA jury would bring back. It would be a lot more. And so I always recommend that an investigation is conducted by an external, experienced investigator.
That is, the fact pattern you just told me is extremely shocking. Either they got some bad advice or there's some bad management going on in that case. I cannot believe they would allow that to happen and not knowing that's going to be an issue.
I can't believe that the HR internal investigator wasn't better prepared for their testimony at deposition and in court. It's shocking.
And why wouldn't you settle and actually go to court with that kind of an expert?
Right.
You know,
I think I think Sherm attempted to argue that the fact that it's the gold standard of human resources and employment law shouldn't have been taken into account. And I think they were counting on the jury not hitting them quite as hard.
wow. You know what this kind of reminds me? When I used to do defense work going back 20 something years ago, we had a case that dealt with the spellings. Remember the spelling? Aaron Spelling?
Yeah.
They had a beach house and um, they had put in a new HVAC system and they didn't know how to use it. So they turned around and sued everybody else about it. The firm they were using was an entertainment firm, law firm, right?
Uh-huh.
They were not, they did not know what they were doing. So they made all these mistakes that sounds a lot like this. For example, their only experts were the people who put the new HVAC system in. Well, that's not an outside expert that says you needed to put in a new HVAC. The people who actually worked on it says we told them we needed a new one. Of course, you're going to say that. And then I'll never forget this. When the expert's deposition came up, we always ask, did you talk to anybody? Blah blah blah. The attorney had given him the questions and the answers to the questions that he should say in the deposition. So basically, everything was being driven by the attorney. So the expert got killed, and they went to trial and they lost. It's like same exact thing. It's like either bad management or bad decision making, bad I don't know counsel, something. But that's
Or
kind of what it
all of the
reminded me
all of
of.
the above.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me about the employment training. What do you do on that respect of it?
So I've had the benefit of training for the whole 27 years that I've been practicing. And we train anywhere from HR and the law, the very bones basics of uh, human resources law for newer practitioners, reasonable accommodations, um, sexual harassment prevention, workplace violence prevention, all the different areas of law that you could think of that you would need your human resources practitioners to be um, learned about,
Mhm.
all the way to how cultivating emotional intelligence in your workforce can prevent lawsuits.
Do you prepare training manuals for employers?
I prefer to use a PowerPoint slide and then provide the PowerPoint slide to the employer following the training.
Okay, so there's no training manual that's
Oh,
put in.
you mean like an
The training manual.
employee handbook?
Yes, that's
Oh
what I mean.
yes, of course, of
Yeah,
course. That falls under the hat of uh, advice and counsel.
got it.
Yes.
Okay. So let's say you're the investigator doing, investigation for a particular claim. Then would you have to bring in a separate counsel to defend the lawsuit, or can you still defend a lawsuit if they're sued?
So I no longer litigate. I would bring in separate counsel to handle the lawsuit. And I would recommend that anyway, because you really want to keep that impartiality of your uh, investigator. You want to keep that intact so they're able to truthfully testify that they were impartial, are impartial, continue to be impartial, and they don't have a horse in the race. I
Got it.
also recommend that the investigation be done by an attorney because you want to keep that attorney client privilege intact unless you choose as a part of litigation to waive it. But until you choose to waive it, it is confidential. And so your employees wouldn't have access to it unless you later decide to waive the privilege in order to avail yourself of that um, affirmative defense.
Okay, that's good advice. Is there one part that you like better? Training, investigation?
I love
The
investigations.
investigating part of it.
I think I'm adept at it. It's fun to me. I get to really cultivate that part of myself that was missing when
Yeah.
I was doing copyrights and trademarks of that human connection. And I really, really enjoy the human connection side of doing investigations.
Okay. So how can people get a hold of you?
They can reach me at wagnerhr.com, or my direct email is jwagner@wagnerhr.com. Jacqueline Wagner at wagnerhr.com. Jwagner@wagnerhr.com.
Okay. Without naming names, are you able to give us like a sample of a juicy investigation you did or no?
I did an investigation recently that involved a high level executive, and it was very difficult because the high level executive had a lot of power and a lot of control. And uh, people were nervous to tell tales out of school. But we were able to get to the heart of the matter. And I can't tell you how it came down, but we were able to do a successful, sound investigation that I would be proud to defend in court.
Oh, good, good. So let's get to know you a little bit. So how do you keep balance? What do you do when you're not working?
Well, I love to hike with my husband. There's so many great hiking areas here in the Santa Clarita Valley. We love to go just explore very flat level hiking, nothing extreme, no boulder climbing or anything like that. I enjoy meditation to keep myself balanced, and spending time with my kids. I really enjoy when they will let me spend time with them because they're high school age. I really enjoy that.
Yeah. When are they going to graduate? And are they going to go to? Are they going to follow your step and go into law?
I think my daughter will. I don't think my son will, but I think my daughter will. My son's more of a techie kind of kid. My daughter is very into politics and the political system. So I think she'll probably go into policy making, but she'll go to law school first. I think.
Man,
And
I think
she's only in high school, but I think that's where she's headed.
yeah, but our job as attorneys are getting harder and harder. Let me tell you.
Indeed.
At least on my side, anyways, personal injury is not what it used to be. It's getting harder and harder every year. Is there one advice you would give to an employer who's listening right now?
Yes, is don't try to save money on the front end of conducting a workplace investigation internally. The Sherm case has shown us that it's just not worth it. It's not advantageous. It's going to cost you in the long run, in a way that you're not necessarily anticipating in the immediate. But definitely bring in someone, me or someone else, bring in someone to conduct the workplace investigation so that you can afford yourself that affirmative defense.
So, what would you say to an employer who says, I'm not that big of a firm, I don't have a lot of employees, my employees all love me, I don't need this kind of stuff? What would you say to somebody like that?
That they'd be surprised. They'd be very surprised to learn that just because you think all your employees love you, uh, you want to protect yourself legally to make sure that you don't stub your toe later. Because especially if they love you and you have a very cohesive relationship, that's all the more reason if things go south, if you've shared confidential information with them, or if you've forged a close friendship and that goes south, those relationships can tend to be so much worse when they go south than a more rigid collegial relationship. So I would recommend that you protect yourself with an employee handbook, with good sound policies, check in with counsel about decisions that you're making. And for sure, if there is a complaint about discrimination, harassment, or retaliation, bring in someone to conduct an investigation immediately.
Is there a time limit when they should start the investigation?
So the statute says immediately, which is not helpful at all. So I always recommend you at least start the initial stages in the immediate, where you tell the employee, we're going to be launching an investigation. Sit tight, we're going to be launching one. So they're at least informed that that's underway.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let me ask you, this is what I ask most of my guests. So as you sit here today, if you were to meet your 10-year-old self and you could give her one advice, what would that advice be?
Don't worry about what other people think or say about you, because 9 times out of 10, that person's opinion is not going to matter to you, you know, in the long run, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and you may not even know that person later. And so just keep forging ahead, reach for your dreams. Don't worry about what people think or say. Just keep going.
Yeah, I think all kids need to hear that because they're all freaking out about every little thing, especially nowadays with social media. It's so much worse than when we grew up.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
adults stress out about that.
Yeah, we do, but kids are a different level. I wish they would hear that more often from everybody. Let's face it. All right, so please tell everybody again how to get a hold of you.
So my direct email is jwagner@wagnerhr.com. And my website is wagnerhr.com.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being a guest today. Everyone who's listening and watching, please, if you have a business, it's very important for you to get everything done right from the very beginning. Set the foundation correctly from the very start because that's going to help you in the long run and protect you. Um, don't think just because you're friends with your employees and they're friends of yours, that's going to help. That could actually backfire in some ways. So
Right.
always talk to a professional. And if you ever get into trouble, you know who to call. Okay. And for everybody else, if you like our podcast, please like and join us on the next one. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jacqueline.
Thanks, Basin.